We've talked about team intention, moving the ball across the field. We've talked about the what, which is the team intention, and the how is the individual player intention. So if I'm a coach and I've got a group of players that are inexperienced in the sense that maybe it's not in the top rungs of the leagues, how do I know what type of team intention to implement based on my players? Maybe they're multi-sport athletes. They show up once a week, maybe twice a week to training. And you've got players that some of them are athletic, some of them are still developing. How does a coach approach that team intention philosophy based on the players? What are you looking for in order to say our team intention is to switch the ball across the field? Our team intention is to build it out of the back. Where's the importance so that a coach knows my team kind of sounds like this? This is what I think is the best route for our team intention.
We know this, okay, that if your team intention was to exploit the space behind the defense as soon as possession was won, or as early as possession was won, due to the lack of space, thus time, which requires faster decisions, and many of these players, as you just mentioned, Jason, are not developed enough to make those quicker decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And so the team intention of passing the ball from one side to the other side, okay, and how that looks, that's up to the coach within those individual intentions.
So you could almost,
if you want to pass it to the center back, and the center back passes it to the other center back, and then this other center back passes it to that center back, passes it to the fullback, you've gotten the ball to the other side of the field. Is that the most productive way to do it? Well, maybe not, but maybe that's all your players can do right now based on their abilities. Because when they do that, they usually have more players and defenders, a couple of forward versus four defenders. So that could be a jumping off point. That could be,
yeah.
All right. But is it the best jumping? Is it the best way to get the ball to the other side of the field? There's other methods that are more effective. Obviously, if your midfielder got the ball and passed it in to the higher midfielder, and then they bounced it back outside to the other side of the field, that would draw the defenders over, that would draw the defenders' attention into the middle of the field, and then it would go back out. And invariably, you would have the space then to continue with the attack. So, because I don't know the teams, I haven't seen the teams play and have not had the opportunity because we're just beginning to get outside, even practice, okay, to guide a coach or offer some type of consultation of what would be the best team intention, what would be the best individual intentions within that team intention to use. I can't say that. I can't say that until I see a team play and have an opportunity to, assess their abilities, right? And until that happens. But as a coach, I'm sure everyone that's in on this Zoom, it's probably starting to provoke some thoughts as what that would look like within my team. What that would look, my team can, I have a girl that can probably deliver a ball 30 yards to the other side of the field, okay? And she's in the midfield. I have a center back that can deliver that pass to the other side of the field, all right? And we don't have to go to the opposite center back or to the full back and then go over there. And so I don't know. I don't have any context into the teams. So as a coach, with the coaches on this Zoom, they could start to begin to reflect a bit of what the abilities of their players are, and then start to devise within that those individual intentions within the team intention. And with that, whatever way you want to do that, then you have to begin to put those players into positions you want when you have the ball. The ball's on the right side. Where do you want your opposite side midfielder to be? Maybe she was in the middle of the field defending. Okay, now where do you want her to go? Okay, where do you want the forward who is pressing the center back? Where do you want her to position herself? Where do you want the opposite fullback? Because if you're going to pass the ball to the other side of the field, you have to have some options to pass it to, right? You have to. And so those players then would begin to position themselves toward the other side. But where do you want those players to be positioned? You know, that's subjective to the coach. That's subjective. And if and Mike and myself are more than willing, we're very willing to guide or consult along those lines. But right now we don't have any context into the team. We haven't had that opportunity yet, because except for the little sessions we did, the abbreviated sessions we did with the inside, and those were mixed teams anyway. Those age groups
Right.
and stuff. So we don't have any in context to whatever, the 09 blue team or 09, yeah, we recognize some of the players, but we really don't have a full, or even a semi assessment on those players, and
Looks, hey, Bill, it looks like Christine has a question.
okay.
So we have, at our meetings, we have been talking about the same intention. And so we've been talking about, switching the field as an intention, and it's a hypothetical. But I'm guessing, what are other examples outside of that you can give as a reference point? Because I think that most of us know our players well enough, even at the younger ages. I know that Will spends a lot of time with his, 13s and 14s, and he knows the players well enough. Are there other examples that you can give as reference points so that we can move from our goals to what you would call intention?
Well, yeah, we mentioned one, right? The team intention would be to, whatever side of the field you win it on, just to go direct from there. We mentioned that one, correct? You remember that one?
Yeah.
We talked about? Okay, so we talked about that one. And then from other team intentions, if you wanted whatever side of the field you wanted, you won the ball on, another team intention could be, because it's based on your abilities of your players. Would a team intention could be get the ball and pass it into the middle channel to my forward, and that would then go into individual intent, pass it into the middle channel, and then maybe bounce it back to the same side or the other side. And if it went to the same side it came from, then that team intention would be to go direct from there. Okay, so that would be play the ball into the middle, take it outside one way or the other side, and then attack from there. You could have a team intention of, yeah, we want to go with other side of the field, but we want to go from fullback to fullback. And we said that may not be the best team intention because it's too slow. Okay, but you could have that. You could just think. There is no limit. There is no limit or no rule that there's 5 team intentions. There could be 150 team intentions. It's just that from a player development perspective, and to be able to pass the ball, because possession is almost non-existent in youth soccer. If somebody puts together 5 passes more than twice a game, then that just doesn't occur. That just doesn't occur. So by passing the ball from one side to the other side, and then working on those individual intentions within that, okay, you're developing your players to make decisions, because they're just not going forward right away. They have decisions to make with that. You're asking your players to make decisions that would require them to pass the ball from one side to the other side. And then we would then begin to exploit the space. What is the abilities of your players? If you have the two fastest forwards in the St. Louis area, if you had, they're just lights out. They run past anybody. I'm talking everybody in your league, and they are good for a goal a game. Okay, what would your team intention be then? Get the ball,
So I guess,
use them, right?
right, but so I can easily apply this to my high school girls, because yes, I can say to you, we have some of the fastest girls in the area. I'm talking about 11 or not 11. I'm talking about 7 and 8-year-olds who
Okay.
nearly have the ability to pass. And some of those go, some of that goes all the way up to the, not, 10s, 11s who are still not great passers. So how do you create a team intention knowing that their
The team
execution doesn't allow?
The team intention is not a priority for you 7 and 8-year-olds. The team intention, and what the intention you have with those 7, 8-year-olds is execution, improve their execution, right? Their skill. That's the priority. So it's a capital E, okay, within that, and I know you know this, Christine, everything is within C, D, and E, right? And so then it's a capital E within C, D, and E you would then look to obviously improve their execution, which is their technique, okay? And then their decision making. There will be some communication, this is built in there, but it will always be a small C. So I would not put as a priority with those 7, 8-year-olds that you are going to work on this team intention of getting the ball from one side to the other side. You may do some things in an absolute sense, okay? You may just tell them whatever side you pass to in a 4-against-2 game or a 5-against-2, whatever you have set up. You may just tell them that you get it on one side, and we would like to see you get it to the other player on the other side. But from perspective of those players carrying out individual intentions, that's not a priority for you. And you mentioned those, I think you said 11-year-olds, Christine. I think you might have said that. If those 7, 8-year-olds are more efficient, become more proficient, are more competent with their execution, then when they're 11, they will then be able to begin to move closer to a team intention. Communication is not a priority until under 14. It's pretty much a small C until under 14. It's a capital E, 7, 8, 9 to about 13. It's a capital D, decision-making in the what and within the how. And then as you get toward that under 14, I mean girls that are 13 years old, then you can begin to put more of an emphasis on that communication within that team intention. But
so could you say, Bill, that you're talking about potentially everybody's collective team intention could be to switch the field, because within just that activity, you're trying to accomplish C, D, and E. So it may happen at different levels in speed, but everybody could have that as a team intention to switch the field to get in behind the defense. You switch the field to get in behind the defense. That could potentially be everybody's, but how you do it might vary based on skill level.
Everybody's overall objective of playing this game is to score one more goal than your opponent. If you have 7-year-olds and you say pick your team, those 7-year-olds are going to pick players, even at 7, that they think are going to help them score one more goal than the opponent. The worst player always gets picked last. It doesn't matter what age those kids are. If you let them pick it when they're 8 and 9 years old, kids want to win. There's a context, and it's not winning at all costs. We're not a professional club where there are consequences if we lose, but everybody's overall objective is to try and score one more goal than the opponent. That is the highest rung of the ladder. That's the overall objective of the sport we play. If you don't want to do that, then you're theoretically not playing soccer. because that's a rule of the game. Now, what you've gotten into then, Jason, is that is what is true for everybody. What is also true for everybody is you have attacking, transitioning, and defending. That is true for everybody. Everybody attacks, everybody defends, everybody transitions. Everybody in the world does that. But you said earlier, and this goes into Christine's question about those young players, because as a player, you would like the possibility of passing forward, passing to the right, passing to the left, and passing backwards. Well, what shape do you need in order to have those four possibilities? You need a diamond. When you get into those young ages like that, and depending on the player, some can pass a little, depending on the age and the ability of the player, some can pass maybe at 9, some might not be able to pass until they're 10. Some maybe can pass when they're 7. There's no absolute age where all of that happens. But with those young players, it may not be a diamond. Maybe it becomes more of a triangle. And there's not a whole lot of passing that happens at 7. What is the predominant way that the ball moves? It's dribbling. So how that ball is moved at 7, 8, and 9 could be a pass. You could be dribbling. But the context that all of that happens in is still C, D, and E. And like Bill said, lowercase c, lowercase d, capital E. So you simplify, you try and simplify the communication, you simplify the decisions. That's why you have small-sided games, because if you could, it would be best to play 11 against 11 at all ages. But we know young kids can't play 11 against 11 for a number of reasons. Some of it with brain development, some of it because they can't kick the ball very far, some of it because they just can't execute those types of actions. So small-sided games, or simplifying the numbers, is logical thinking. So maybe even at those youngest ages, it's not a diamond, maybe it's a triangle, but they're still playing in a direction. They're still attacking, defending, transitioning, but maybe it's only 2 against 1 rather than 4 against 1. Maybe it's 3 against 1. Maybe it's 3 against 1 in a big space. Like I said, maybe it's 2 against 1 and the 2 are just trying to attack the 1. And then if you think about it, the player who was attacking becomes the teammate becomes the defender becomes now the attacker with the ball. And then they just play like that. That's all a possibility.
For some of the other coaches that are on here, and you're thinking about the teams that you have, how would you take this information and implement it? For example, if you agree that your team intention could be to work on switching the field, switching the ball from one side to the other to exploit the space behind the defense, does this help? Yeah, go ahead, Chad.
So I played Tuesday night, and we talked about it beforehand. The girls and I did, and we said a team intention is that we just wanted to switch the ball back and forth all night long to see how we would do. It took a few minutes, but we controlled the possession of the game. We ended up winning 4-1. It was probably the best game that I've seen my 2011s play from fall, winter, and now the spring season. I think it was the best game we played all year. So the girls are understanding and learning that a team intention is important. But my team is still extremely raw in all aspects of the game. So I'm trying to break it down as easy as possible for them and just having them switch and then execute through the defense. They did that, and we scored 4 goals. It's the most goals we scored all year.
Okay, so what you did is you made the game, okay, and the team intention more simplistic for them.
Yeah.
You made it more simplistic for them, so you took, it's like a stepping stones. You put them on the first stepping stone, get the ball to the other side of the field. And if I understood correctly, you said to them, let's see how many times we can change it. And that would have been a great opportunity at halftime or as players came in and out of the game, to do some reference coaching with them, which is just asking them questions and then letting them try to come to the answer of those questions you asked, and stay away from just telling them that they should have done this or done that. So that was really good. What you did, you simplified the game for them by saying, get it from one side of the field to the other. Okay. And the next, and potentially the next stepping stone would be then to what? Exploit the space behind the defense.
Correct.
That would be the next thing. But you know what? There is nothing, and this may be to your best, to the best benefit of your team. Don't even worry about that this year. Don't even worry about it, maybe even most of next year. Just get them to carry out that first step of that team, that team intention, and then start to think within that team intention, okay, about those individual intentions. Where do you want this player to position himself? Where do you want this player to position himself? Because, you know, that's the next step. And then once you have established that with your team, then maybe the next step, when they're ready, is to, now we want to get this, when we get it over here, we want to strike. We want to get that ball behind the defense. We just don't want to keep passing it back and forth. We want to get it behind the defense. And so then the next step may be, okay, how do we do that? How do we do that? And that may not be, and like I said, it may be in your team's best benefit, given their development stage in that. It's just what you said. I think what you said was good. It was simplistic. It sounded like they understood it. And, you know, with no guarantees for the next game, it turned out okay that game for them.
So
Mhm.
if you asked your players, having no previous conversations with them, what is the best way to attack? And you have 10 players on your team, how many different answers do you think you would get?
10.
That's what the team intention does. It gives everybody one answer. Yeah. So it aligns the thinking of all of your players. And for you, whether you did this or not is irrelevant, but the coach's job in figuring out what that team intention is you have assessed those players. You say, this is what we do as a group really good. This is what we do as a group not so good. So this is what I, as the coach, have decided for you as the team. This is what we're going to do as a team. So now moving forward, when you ask that question, hey, little Johnny, we just won the ball. What do we want to do? We want to move it however you phrase it. We want to move it to the other side of the circle. We want to move it to the other side of the field. But you've taken those 10 answers and made it one for everybody on your team. And that's the beauty of the team intention. It aligns everyone's thinking to try and accomplish the same thing. Because if you don't do that, you may not have 10 different answers. You may have 20 different answers because they're getting a whole earful of it from their parents at home or on the car ride home about what they should have done when they got the ball. Now they can at least say, hey, Mom, we're trying to move the ball to the other side of the field. Then what Bill has referred to is by staying in that team intention, and this may not happen, Chad, for a week, 2 weeks, 2 months, but as that neural network, that idea becomes more and more of a habit, because for you, it's still a conscious thought for them. Right? Eventually, you hope it becomes an unconscious thought where they just do it. It's just a reflex. And then you can begin to qualify what are some of the ways, and this is what Bill was referring to. Reference thinking is asking an open-ended question with one answer. Yeah. What is the best way, team, to move the ball to the other side of the field? Well, if they said around the back, that's a way, but it's not the best way because it's the furthest away from the goal. What would be the best way? Move it through your forward to the other side, because moving it to the forward gets it closer to goal. Closer to the goal is better than further away. What is the second best way? Moving it through the midfield. What is not a bad way, but what is the least effective way or the third best? Around the back. So then those individual intentions, because now, Chad, you have this idea, okay, these are some ways we can move it across to the other side. What would my forward do when we win it? When my right midfielder wins it, or whoever wins it on the right side, what would my forward do? And then you have this idea of her action, and then you try and create those situations in everything you do at practice. You try to create the situations, those actions, because what you're creating are action patterns in those players. So eventually, just like when you ask, what are we trying to do? Boom, it pops up the reflex answer of move the ball to the other side of the field. You're trying to create a reflex, an unconscious reflex in your forward to do whatever it is that action you want her to do. But in order to do that, we know repetition is good, but you want her to gain repetition in the actual situation that she will or he will encounter in the game. That's where the repetition should be gained, in that situation, because the more they gain repetition in that situation, the faster that thought is provoked of what you want that forward to do. And the same with midfielders, and the same with your backline players, the same with your left-sided players, the same with your right-sided players. So you have all of those action patterns in your head, whether you're playing 4v4 or 7v7 or 11v11. And now, and this may seem daunting, but there is a methodology to follow, but you want to create situations in practice, transfer them from your thinking to design situations so that you can download what's in your brain into their brain.
So if you think of on defense, your team is now on defense. Could you say that a team intention is to try to add 2 more defenders into that, grid and win the ball back? And then the offensive transition would be to then try to switch the ball to the other side of the field. So could that be basically 2 team intentions, one on offense, one on defense? That would clear up probably decision-making, because kids would know, if we don't have the ball, are there defenders around? Do we have 2 more defenders than they have offensive players? So they're thinking now. So their game insight has been leveled to just basically 2 thoughts. If we have the ball, we're switching the field. If we don't have the ball, we're trying to add in 2 more defenders. To me, that seems like that could be a defensive team intention as well, because I understand we're talking about offense, but there's it's also defense.
Well,
When you come up with a team intention, try to avoid talking about player behaviors, because as soon as we start talking about player behaviors, then you're trying to control their decisions. So when we say move the ball to the other side of the field, we're not necessarily saying how it gets moved to the other side. We're qualifying how it gets moved to the other side, but we're not saying it has to be this player or this player or this player. That's the decision of the player. What we're trying to do, we said, align their thinking. The individual intention deals with the player behaviors. So that team intention from a defensive standpoint may just be win the ball back as soon as possible. Or it may be we are going to, and I'm not saying use this language with 7-year-olds, but it may be we're going to try and horizontally press so we win the ball on the sidelines or on the right side of the field or the left side of the field. It may be close the center, horizontal press. So everybody comes together. You're not saying how they come together. You're not mandating a way to come together. You're just saying everybody together, close the center, because the opponent's goal is in the center. And now we're going to try and win the ball on the side. But the team intention avoids talking about player behaviors.
Okay. Any other coaches have a thought on thinking about their own team, and maybe you don't feel comfortable yet in this discussion, but do you have some conversation thoughts that you want to at least bring into Mike or Bill, because we have the forum to not only talk about team intention, but this is obviously a group discussion.
So 09 Blue had tournament this weekend, and you could definitely tell that a lot of them have never been on 11v11 field, obviously, because we had a lot of young kids. But the team intention, I think it also not only gives them a purpose, but it also helps them know where to be and when to be there, because you could tell we definitely struggled with that this weekend. Bill, you said you haven't seen youth teams do 5 passes in a row. The team from Michigan that we played, I think, possessed the ball for 15 consecutive minutes in the game.
They're in the wrong division is what that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we talked about. They were like a regional team came down to play. I mean, they moved the ball around us like we weren't even out there. But when we got the ball, like you said, there was no rhyme or reason really to what the girls were doing a lot of the time. But the team intention we tied one game and lost 7-0 and 5-0. So, I mean, it was a rough weekend for the girls, but some of them came off field talking about what they could have done better or what they even saw the other team doing during the game and why it was like that. But I do like that you're not controlling what they decide to do or how they do it. You're just giving them an objective as to what the purpose is when they do receive the ball.
I've used this metaphor at Sunset, so maybe some of you have heard this. You all have a household team intention. Maintain your household. You don't want your house to fall apart. You don't have broken windows in your house. You want to maintain the quality of your house. That's your family home team intention. Everybody in your family, you have 2 daughters, 2 sons, a son, a daughter, whatever. They all have individual intentions contributing to maintain a good household. Maybe an individual intention for your son is keep your room clean. You don't care how he keeps his room clean. He could clean it every night. He can clean it every other day. But his individual intention to contribute to maintain good household is keep your room clean. How he does it at 8 years old looks different than how he does it at 18. Your involvement with him at 8 is different than your involvement with him at 18. But what he does, household team intention, what he does is the same. And what you referred to a little, Andrew, is how they do it. That's their choice. That's why they play. They ultimately make the decision. That's the beauty of the game. They're the decision makers. You're just trying to download references in their head to pick the best option available so that situation provokes the reference you want. That's what you do with your 8-year-old son when you're helping him clean his room. You show him where the socks go. Maybe you show him how to fold the socks. You show him how to vacuum. You show him how to dust. So you're downloading that reference. So now when he's 12 and you say clean your room, that provokes dusting reference. That provokes sock drawer reference. That provokes whatever reference you want to download. And then take that same metaphor and just apply it. Yeah, we just won the ball. My right-sided player just won it. Boom. Reference provoked in my center midfielder or my left midfielder. I need to do this. I need to create space, or I need to move in this direction. It provokes that reference.
So with the older girls, so I guess 09 would be U13. I think that's the oldest group we have in the club, right, Jason?
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously younger age intention of switching the fields or playing the ball the other side. With the older girls, could the intention be play the ball behind the defense through the other side? Because so many times, as a coach, when you say switch the field or find the other side, at that point, they're only looking to switch the fields instead of having their head up and seeing someone's making a run. I can now play it behind the defense.
Switching the field's become the objective.
Yeah, but when you say it mid-game, because it goes and then someone will get the ball and dribble it a couple of touches, where if they would have thought about playing it behind, because we did have it happen a couple times this weekend where, I mean, we scored one goal off of a goalie kick because the goalie picked up the ball, looked up, and there was no one by our forward, kicked the ball long, rolled. Forward had a breakaway for a 50 yards. So, I mean, is that okay with the older kids to add more to the intention, to add more depth to it, or do you want to keep them as small as possible?
Well, the objective is to exploit the space behind the defense, behind the opponent's back line. That's and the switching the ball is obviously okay within the team intention, but it's a tool that you use. And once the teams, as you said, the next step is, okay, now we got the ball. You guys got this really good. You guys are switching this ball. And now how do we exploit that space? Because we've got them coming to one side of the field. And now we move it to the other side of the field. And we got them running over here. And as they run over here, we know at every level, especially as the game goes on, that defenders start to move away. There's more gaps between the defense because the left back is, the center back is not staying connected to the fullback and so forth, and throughout the midfield also. So you know that we got it over here. We got them to come over to this side of the field. Now let's take advantage of that space that is opened up behind that defense, and let's get it behind that defense. And let's get it behind there. So that would be then your next step. And what that would look like and how they do that. And how do they do that from an individual player intentions? Because right now, okay, and I haven't seen your team play, but I'm sure I will, right? Right now, okay, they have the thought of switching the ball to the other side of the field. But can you start to refine that? Now, can you start to refine that? Have you been training, which it's been tough because nobody's been able to get outside hardly, but training, okay, where does the weak side fullback or the weak side midfielder want to position herself when we start to make this, when we make this transition and we start taking the ball? Where does your center forward, if you're playing with one or two, whatever, where do they go? And so you begin to refine that through that positioning, okay, and the direction in which they move, okay, to make that switching the field more productive or make it better. And then as you refine that, you begin to think about we got this defense moving. We're going to probably create some gaps in that defense. Now, how are we going to get that ball behind the defense? And then that's the next step. And that's the next step to work on then. And then the other piece in there is this. The other piece is, okay, your right midfielder gets the ball, right? Who do you want her to pass to? If she wants to switch the ball, she wants to pass to certain players. She may, and if she's going to contribute toward the attack, all right, she may be her perception, what she's thinking, when she gets that ball, she begins to look toward who? If she wants to, she begins to look toward that forward who has drifted away. She begins to look to that other midfielder potentially. She may look to another midfielder depending on where you want her position. And then basically that's it. She has 2 or 3 decisions to make. You take the decision-making piece and you help her with that, because it's really hard for our players to make what, 10 players out there, all these decisions to make. So you make her decision-making selective. And that's another step. That's another step in developing your team intention and your individual player intentions.
Hey, Bill and Mike, I have a question. We had a game on Tuesday night where we had girls from 4 different teams because we needed subs. And if every team has a different intention that they're working on throughout the year, how do you structure that game to work for all different levels of girls forming one team for a game?
Well, that's the advantage of everybody having one team intention, isn't it? That's the advantage of everybody having one team intention, because then from perspective of if everyone, so you may say that if everyone had a similar team intention, discussion among coaches, given that what was rough, what we did well, what we didn't do so well. And that coach, so it opens up communication lines where coaches then can speak with one another and begin provoking thought among each other that, hey, he had a good idea. I think maybe next practice, I'm going to try that. Yeah, the team, what you just said is basically is a chaotic situation, right? Because those players coming from different teams, probably having no team intentions, okay, coming from different teams, it was really hard for them because all the decisions, they had to make all these decisions during the game. They didn't have any thoughts about what we wanted to do when we had the ball, take the defensive side out of it, what we wanted to do when we had the ball. They didn't have any thoughts along those lines. So it was, I'm the center midfielder. Okay, this time I'll pass right. Next time I'll pass left. Next time I pass back. Okay. And not that they think about that, but that's the reflex that they get because they have all these decisions to make. So those decisions just become random, and they don't, for the most part, they don't add to what you're trying to do as a team. Okay, they don't add. They're not contributors toward the team attack. Here's something I thought about. Messi, he plays great. He plays really good with Barcelona, doesn't he? Why doesn't he play so well with Argentina? Why is everybody always pissed off at him? And they're saying, oh, he let everybody down. They expected Messi to lead them to the promised land. So Messi trains every day with Barcelona for 10 months, 11 months. He's with those guys, and they're having meetings, and they're training, and they're working on, because you can be guaranteed that they just don't go out there and play in chaos. They have a way of playing or a team intention, and within that team intention, Barcelona has individual intentions. So now he gets with Argentina, and he has 4 weeks to get ready for the World Cup. He has 6 weeks to get ready for the World Cup, although they may have shown up a couple other times to play some exhibitions or something, and they've been maybe together for a couple of weeks. All right. So he gets out there, and what's in his brain? What's in his brain is what he's been doing with Barcelona for 10 months. And then what happens is that he is trying to reframe his brain to fit into Argentina, and he keeps getting, and what's provoked in his thought? Barcelona, that comes first. So he has to consciously think about whoever is the coach of Argentina at that time. That can be a revolving door, we know that, okay? And so now Messi's got to constantly think about that. What does that do to his play? Does it make his play faster or slower? What does it do? Slower. It's logical. It makes it slower. So now he's there. So what do World Cup coaches do? World Cup coaches do two things. They focus with they think about, and they set up, and they organize. What do they organize for the World Cup? Do they organize their attack, or do they organize their defense? They organize their defense. They organize their defense because that's easier, and they're not. And even though defense's intention may be with the teams, the club teams they came from, the teams may have a defensive intention, but it is easier for those World Cup coaches to organize them defensively, and the other piece they work on is restarts, free kicks, right? And if you saw the last World Cup, a big percentage of the goals were in restarts. Or you be like France, park the bus, not in your final third, okay, in your back third, park the bus behind your goal even, like France did, and then who do they find? Who do they look to find? Mbappe, right? Fastest guy in the world. They look to find. So that's a very simple team intention. Organize the defense, okay, create that team intention, work on restarts, and our attacking team intention, find Mbappe. Now it's good. Passes are going to go to other players, but he is the objective. That's what they do. And so everybody is always criticizing Messi, but he's put in a situation that what's activated in his brain has to be activated consciously a lot, because his unconscious brain tells him potentially to do something else like he did with Barcelona.
So about 1 minute left to close it out. We talked about the team intention, player intention, simplifying the game equals higher communication. And then that relays into game insight, better decision-making, and all of this aligns to the development of your kids. Anything from Mike or Bill before we settle up here and get back to our families?
I'll close it up with just about a minute to go back to this question that Tim had about a number of players coming from a number of different teams, and maybe those players were even within Steamers teams. That would be like you working in a company that has 4 floors. On the first floor, you do really, really good speaking English, and they go, Tim, good job. We're going to promote you. And then you go, this is great. I got promoted. I got asked to be on another team. And he goes up to the second floor and he goes, whoa, they're speaking Chinese on the second floor. This is going to take me a little bit of time to acclimate myself to speaking Chinese. But eventually he speaks Chinese. And they go, good job, Tim. You get a promotion to the third floor. And Tim goes, thank God. But they speak German on the third floor. And so now Tim has to go through another acclimation period. How long or how short depends on how perceptive or how quick of a learner Tim is. And now he's on the third floor. That's basically what those players encountered. They went from their team conditioned to do one thing, whatever that was, to now a different team. They have to recondition their thinking. It takes time for them to get that down, if they even get it. So what does a club team intention, attacking intention, and defending intention do? All 4 floors speak English. So now there is no acclimation period. That's the what of the club. Tim's team may play 3-5-2. Andrew, your team may play 4-4-2. Christine's team may play 4-3-3. That's how they are going to do it. That's how they achieve the team intention. But English all the way through, move the ball to the other side.
Yeah. All right.